Good morning, students. I hope so you all are well. So we have done 3-4 lectures for the revision. Now we can continue with our syllabus, and I'm going to start a new chapter today, which I have given you in the holiday homework as well, which is from the subject history, and this is lecture 1 from chapter number 3, Nationalism in India, class 10th. So we are starting with this chapter now. I have given you this chapter in the holiday homework, so you must be aware about this chapter and you know certain things that we are going to discuss in this chapter. So let's get started with this chapter now. So the topics in this particular lecture that we are going to cover is, first of all, I will be giving you an introduction about this chapter, what this chapter is all about, and then we'll discuss about the first series from this chapter. So the first series of this chapter is the First World War, Khilafat and Non-Cooperation. So in the first series they are talking about the First World War, Khilafat and Non-Cooperation movement. So basically in this particular series we are going to discuss that, and the idea of Satyagraha which Mahatma Gandhi bring. So we'll talk about that also. Then the Rowlatt Act and the homework I am going to assign you. So non-cooperation I am not taking in this particular lecture. I am keeping this for the another lecture because it is quite big. So we'll discuss that in the another lecture. So I am starting with the introduction now. So in India, as you all know, in many other colonies as well, and other parts of the country like Vietnam and many other colonies, the growth of modern nationalism is intimately connected to the anti-colonial movements. So anti-colonial movements are the pre-independence movements that have been taken place so that they could get themselves free from all these colonies, colonial bodies that are present in their country, and make them independent and free from all these movements. So basically it has been started, all these movements have been started in these anti-colonial movement only, and people begin discovering their unity in the process by their struggle with colonism. So people begin discovering about this particular unity in the process, when the colonism was going on in their country, when these Britishers were there in our country. There was a certain process that had been happening, and the struggle they faced in colonism, and the sense of being oppressed under colonism provided a sheer bond that tied many different groups together. So there were a lot of people there, as you all know, in our country there are a number of dialects, number of religions, a lot of we can say culture are there, but when it comes to fighting for one unity, for one movement, for independence, they all came together and shared a bond, and they tied many different groups together to form alliance and to get freedom from these Britishers and this colonism which were there present at that time. Then, but each class and group felt the effect of this colonism differently, and their experience were varied, and their notions of freedom were not always the same. So there is certain, you all know that there are certain class that have been distributed at that point of time. They were Dalits, they were middle class people, but they were high class people which does have all the facilities. There are different groups that were there in the colonial movement. So the effect of this colonism in each particular class or group was different, and their experience also varied according to their situation, and their notion of freedom was also different. So like if I was in a family of a Dalit and non-touchable kind of a people, so my struggle was completely different from the one who got each and everything in their hand, like in the rich class people, the Brahmins are there, the Pandits are there. So they were quite जिनको बहुत माना जाता था उस टाइम पे, so they were at the top one. So उनका जो स्ट्रगल था, इफेक्ट ऑफ कॉलोनिज्म उनके ऊपर डिफरेंट था और बाकी लोगों के ऊपर डिफरेंट था. So how it varies. So the Congress under Mahatma Gandhi tried to force these groups together within one movement. So what the Congress did, तो उस टाइम पे कांग्रेस की सरकार थी हमारे यहाँ पे, and under that Mahatma Gandhi just came together with them to forge these group together within one movement, but the unity did not merge without conflict. So they started getting united with each other, but the emergence was not easy. There was conflict that came between them. And in an early textbook, you have read about the growth of nationalism. So in 9th class, you have studied about the growth of nationalism in India up to the first decade of the 20th century. Now in this chapter, we will pick up the story from the 1920s and study about the non-cooperation and civil disobedience movements. So we'll talk about the non-cooperation movements which was started by Mahatma Gandhi, and lot other strugglers and movements were happened so that we can get our independence from this colonialism that was there. And we will explore how the Congress sought to develop the national movement, how different social groups participated in the movement, and how nationalism captured the imagination of people here. So all these things we are going to talk about in this particular chapter. So the first series of this chapter is about the First World War, Khilafat and non-cooperation. So it all started in the year after 1919. So as you all know, about 1919 year was quite famous because we see the national movement spreading to new areas. So in that particular year, it was, why it was famous, because we have seen number of national movements that was spreading in India and in new particular areas. Not in one area, it was spreading in many areas around us and incorporating new social groups and developing new modes of struggle. So there were many people who were making these posters and roaming around in roads, making these social groups and fighting it out with these Britishers for their own rights. So there were many new social groups that have been made. Development of new mode of struggle have been came up in 1919. So first of all, the war created a new economic and political situation. So like in जो current situation है, if we talk about in 2020, so we are facing a new economic and political situation where we currently have banned the Chinese apps, and we have banned most of the items that came from China. So why we have done this? Because maximum of profit they were gaining, and they were so smart enough, so they were opting from our country only limited things so that their GDP could increase. So the same is happening now because we don't have much of employment, we don't have much of funds that have been left. So the same thing was happening in that year also. So there was a new economic and political situation. It led to a huge increase in deficient expenditure, which has financed by war loans and increasing taxes. So basically all the funds that was there with them, it was being गिविंग टू दिस वॉर सिचुएशन. तो वहाँ पे ऐसे वॉर सिचुएशन हो गई थी जिसकी वजह से उनको मैक्सिमम फंडिंग जो उनके पास थी और फाइनेंशियल अमाउंट जो था, दे हैव टू गिव इट टू दी इन द आर्मी सेक्शन सो दैट दे कैन opt for these military armies or weapons they can take it from. So they were taking certain loans for this war that was happening at that time, and they have increased a lot of tax. So the tax amount was increases and custom duties was raised and income tax was introduced at that time for so that they can generate some amount to so that they can opt for these war loans. So they can opt for this जो भी बंदूकें वगैरह थी, guns, army people are there. So for everyone out there, they need certain finance. So for that they have done these things. Then through the war years, price increased, doubling from 1913 till 1918, leading to extreme hardship for the common people. So basically in that year also there were major hardship that they have faced. So जो fruits and vegetables के prices अभी बढ़े हुए हैं, पेट्रोल के prices बढ़े हुए हैं, they have seen the same thing. They have seen that the prices have been increased, doubling. जो normal rate they were giving to these to buy these things, they were giving the double amount to them, and it has led to extreme hardship for the common people. Now also the common person are suffering, and that time also the common people were suffering because of these crises. Now the villages were called upon to supply soldiers, and the forced recruitment in rural areas got caused widespread anger. So now the villages were also called up to become the soldiers, to join the army, so that the army force should be strong enough and they can compete with the other countries who were there in this colonialism time. So they taken the villagers, all the village peoples. They started this recruitment started with in rural areas, and they have spreaded the feeling of anger in them, so that they can मतलब उनके अंदर एक ऐसा जज्बात भर के देना उनको कि आप अपने देश की आज़ादी के लिए लड़ रहे हो, आपको लड़ना पड़ेगा, अगर आप नहीं लड़ोगे तो हम कभी भी आज़ाद नहीं हो पाएंगे. So this kind of feeling was cultivated in the heart of people around them, so that they can join army, and the recruitment was started at that year. Then in 1918 and 19 and from 1920 to 21, the crops failed in many parts of India, resulting in adequate shortage of food. So in that particular years, the crops also failed in many parts of India, resulting in adequate shortage of food. So now there was shortage of food as well in these particular years, and this was accompanied by an influenza epidemic. And according to the census of 1921, to 12 to 13 million people perished as a result of famines and the epidemic. So basically they are saying that there were many people also died, and many people was in unnutrition state में थे, जिसकी वजह से they have to face certain crisis because of these particular things that was happening because of them. So the hardship level was to an extreme level at that time. People hoped that their hardship would end after the war was over, but that did not happen. So there was certain wars that was happening at that time. People were praying that at that time that this hardship should end and they should get back to the normal life, but that didn't happen at that particular stage. At this stage, a new leader appeared and suggested a new mode of struggle. So when this hardship was going on around them, there was suddenly a new leader that came up and suggested a new mode of struggle, and he was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi came up with a lot of ideas and lot of mode of struggles to inculcate in the hearts of people, so that they start with the revolution to some another level. So what was that thing? First thing that he told to these people was the idea of Satyagraha. So the idea of Satyagraha was brought by Mahatma Gandhi when he returned to India in January 1915. So he finished off with his studies and his law thing in 1950 and returned back in January 1915. As you know, he had to come from South Africa, where he had successfully fought the racist regime with the novel method of mass education, which he called Satyagraha. So basically he has done this before in South Africa also, where he was he has faced certain racist comments from the South African people that he's brown, he's black, you should not talk to such people. He was intimidated with his color, from his religion, and he started an initiative at that time with a method of mass agitation, which he called as Satyagraha. So the idea of Satyagraha emphasizes the power of truth and the need to search for truth. So what was his idea of Satyagraha was to emphasize the power of truth, कि सच की हमेशा जीत होती है, and you should search for truth around you. So अगर if you are true to yourself, you are true to what you are doing, and you can compete with anything, you can achieve anything in your life. So that was his thought about Satyagraha, and he has emerged as one of the biggest struggle movements in colonialism basically. He suggested that if the cause was true, if the struggle was against injustice, then physical force was not necessary to fight the oppressor. So he has said that in his interviews also, that if the cause was true, that and the struggle was against the injustice that was happening with them, so the physical force is not needed. उन्होंने यही कहा था कि अगर हमारे साथ injustice हो रहा है and we know we are struggling for our own self, so उसके लिए physical force की जरूरत नहीं है. You just have to be true to yourself and fight with the oppressor with the least amount of violence possible. So without seeking vengeance or being aggressive, or a satyagrahi could win the battle through non-violence. So he has said to the people around him that if your work is true, your movement is true, and it is against injustice, you don't have to be aggressive, you don't have to create physical violence against all these things. You could be a satyagrahi and could win the battle through non-violence, and this could be done by appealing to the conscience of the oppressor. So उनके दिमाग के साथ खेलो, तुम उनको इतना मजबूर कर दो कि वो खुद गिव अप कर दें with your non-violence thing. Being a satyagrahi is that you should play with their mind, you should play with their conscience, and to make them into such a position that वो खुद ही गिव अप कर दें. And people, including the oppressor, had to be persuaded to see the truth instead of being forced to accept truth through the use of violence. So people, including the oppressor also, they had to see that the truth is there, and instead of being forced to accept that particular truth through the use of violence. By this struggle, truth was bound to ultimately triumph, and Mahatma Gandhi believed that this dharma of non-violence could unite all Indians. So he said that by this struggle, by these movements, truth can be ultimately be the most important, powerful thing that could ever happen with the people who are living in India. And he also believed that this dharma of non-violence could unite all the Indians together. After arriving in India, Mahatma Gandhi successfully organized satyagraha movements in various places. Like in 1960, he traveled to Champaran in Bihar to inspire the peasants to struggle against the obsessive plantation system. So he have went to certain places, and he have given his speeches to these people to cultivate this satyagraha movement in various places, and he was successful also. So after arriving in India, Mahatma Gandhi successfully organized satyagraha movements in various places. Like in 1960, he traveled to Champaran in Bihar to inspire the peasants who were working under these farming, who was basically the farmers who have to struggle against these Britishers, because the maximum profit has been taken by the Britishers. So he has given them certain suggestions to struggle against the obsessive plantation system. Then in 1917, he organized a satyagraha to support the peasants of the Khera district of Gujarat, and they were affected by crop failure and plague epidemic. The peasants of Khera could not pay the revenue and were demanding that revenue collection be relaxed. So basically, he also organized a satyagraha movement in 1970 for the workers who were working in the Khera district of Gujarat, and they were majorly affected by the crop failure that happened in their fields, and the peasants of Khera could not pay the revenue because they didn't get any amount because the crops were failed, and they were demanding that the revenue should be relaxed, that they have to give it. So in 1918, Mahatma Gandhi went to Ahmedabad to organize a satyagraha movement amongst cotton mill workers. So he started with this satyagraha movement from Ahmedabad, taking all the workers who were working in this cotton mill factories. So what was the take of Mahatma Gandhi on satyagraha was, so he has given one speech, and I'm just reading it out. You have to understand it on your own, because the homework is related to this. So it is said of passive resistance that it is the weapon of the weak, but the power which is the subject of this article can be used only by the strong. So he has said that it is a weapon of the weak, but the power which the subject of this article can be used only by the strong. So passive resistance means that you can control all your emotions and be in a state that no one can harm you mentally. So basically, he said that it could be a weapon of a weak, but the power of the subject of this article could be used only by the strong. And this power is not passive resistance. Indeed, it calls for intense activity. And the movement in South Africa was not passive, but it was active. Satyagraha is not physical force. A satyagrahi does not inflict pain on the adversary. He does not seek his destruction. In the use of satyagraha, there is no ill will whatever. Satyagraha is pure soul force, and truth is the very substance of the soul. That is why this force is called satyagraha, and the soul is informed with knowledge. It is in it burns the flame of love. Non-violence is the supreme dharma, and it is certain that India cannot rival Britain or Europe in the force of arms. The British worship the word God, and they can all of them become, as they are becoming, bearers of arms. The hundreds of millions in India can never carry arms. They can make the religion of non-violence their own. So this is what he has said about Satyagraha in one of his speech, that truth is one of the purest soul force. That truth is a substance of the purest soul force, and this is known. Truth is the form is inculcated in the form of Satyagraha here. It is informed with knowledge and a lot of substances that is around us, and you can win any fight if you are a Satyagrahi. Now comes the another act, which is the Rowlatt Act. So what is Rowlatt Act? So it is emboldened with this success, Gandhiji in 1990 decided to launch a nationwide satyagraha against the proposed Rowlatt Act. So he have introduced one act in this satyagraha movement only, but about the Rowlatt Act in 1990 this happened, and this act had been hardly passed through the Imperial Legislative Council despite the united obsession of the Indian members. So this particular act was passed through some Congress team that was there in the Imperial Legislative Council, and in this particular act there were many Indian members who were part of it. It gave the government enormous powers to repress political activities and allowed detention of political prisoners without trial for 2 years. So basically in this particular act has given a lot of power to the government, and it has repressed all the political activities that were happening by the colonizers, and they have allowed detention of political prisoners without trial for 2 years. And Mahatma Gandhi wanted non-violent civil disobedience against such unjust laws, which would start with the hurtle on 6th April. So what Mahatma Gandhi wanted, he wanted non-violent civil disobedience against this particular things which were unjust laws that have been made by the Britishers for the Indians, and he wanted to start one revolution. So he started with this Rowlatt Act, and it has started at 6th of April. So the rallies were organized in various cities. Workers went on strike in railway workshops, and shops were closed down. Alarmed by the popular upsurge, and scattered that lines of the communication such as the railways and telegraph would be disrupted, the British administrators decided to clamp down on the nationalisms, and local leaders were picked up from Amritsar, and Mahatma Gandhi was barred from entering to Delhi. So Mahatma Gandhi को orders मिल गए थे that he cannot enter into Delhi. He have to stay where he have to stay, because all these things was happening, and the Britishers were in deep concise that if it is going to continue, so इनका rules और regulation और जो भी इनकी power है, it is going to replify them, it is going to destroy. So he wanted that Mahatma Gandhi should not enter in Delhi. So on 10th April, the police in Amritsar fired upon a peaceful procession, provoking widespread attack on banks, post offices and railway stations. Martial law was imposed and General Dyer took command. So basically, you know about in Amritsar there was an act that was going on about this Jallianwala Bagh that has went to on 13th of April, but it was started in 10th of April only. So ये सारी जो चीजें थी ये 10th of April से start हो गई थी under General Dyer, he was the commander at that time, and he was imposing certain laws to replace this peacefulness that was happening in Amritsar. So he has announced that the police in Amritsar should fire upon a peaceful procession. He was provoking widespread attacks on banks, post offices and railway stations there, and there was martial law that was imposed there, and General Nair was the one who was the commander. Then on 13th April, that you all know that the infamous Jallianwala Bagh incident took place, and on that day a large crowd gathered in the enclosed ground of Jallianwala Bagh. Some came to protest against the government's new oppressive measures. Others had come to attend the annual Baisakhi fair. Being from outside the city, many villagers were unaware for the martial law that have been imposed. So in the martial law, it has been said that they are not allowed to come out of their homes. They have to stay in your home if they don't want to get killed. So this martial law was have been imposed to them, but the large crowd was gathered there, and they want to protest against all these things. So that was happening at Jallianwala Bagh. There were many protesters also that came up with the government to inform the new repressive measures. There was Baisakhi also at that time, so they want to attend this Baisakhi fair. And being from outside the city, many villagers were also unaware about this martial law that had been imposed. So the Dyer entered the area, blocked the exit points and opened fire on the crowd, killing hundreds. His object, as he declared later, was to produce a moral effect, to create in the minds of Satyagrahis a feeling of terror and awe. So basically what he actually did, so Dyer have ordered these particular men, he have blocked all the exit areas, all the exit points, and he opened fire them on the crowd. Many were जिन्होंने जंप मार लिया था उस कुएं के अंदर, so they died there, but many were killed because of these bullets that the open fire was happening there. His main object, he declared after this particular incident, was to produce a moral effect. तो वो एक lesson देना चाहता था सारे लोगों को, that want to create in the minds of the Satyagraha feeling of terror and awe in them, that we are more powerful, we are the one who are going to rule you, and whatever, want to create certain feeling of terror in them, so that they should stop these movements which was happening in this, because of this Satyagrahi movement was going on. Then as the news of Jallianwala Bagh spread, crowds took to the streets in many North Indian towns, and there were strikes, clashes with the police and attacks of government buildings. So as the news of this Jallianwala Bagh spread around them, big crowd that took to the streets and protested against this particular police members and this General Dyer in the North Indian towns, and they were doing strikes, there were clashes with the police and attacks in the government buildings. They were doing all that stuff, and the government responded with brutal repression, seeking to humiliate and terrorize people. By the Satyagrahis were forced to rub their noses on the ground, crawl on the streets and do salam salute to all sahibs. People were flooded, and villages around this Gujranwala in Punjab, now that is the part in Pakistan, were bombed, and seeing violence spread, Mahatma Gandhi called off that movement. So when all this movement was going on about this Jallianwala Bagh, after that a lot of things was happening, so people were in lot of anger. They came up to the street, they burned all the police government buildings, they clashed, they attacked on the police. The government also responded very brutally to them, like they were doing like लोगों को घुटनों पे झुका के, उनके नाक रगड़वा के उनसे सलाम करवाते थे. तो ऑल दी सारे जो भी वहाँ पे पुलिस ऑफिसर्स होते थे, तो they were crawling them into the streets and they were humiliating them to some next level, and all these things were going on. And many of the part of the areas, जो villages say, that was in Gujranwala in Punjab, now it is in Pakistan, it was bombed. So all this violence which was going on after that, seeing this particular violence, Mahatma Gandhi called off that particular movement at that time. And while the Rowlatt Satyagraha had been a widespread movement, it was still limited mostly to cities and towns, and Mahatma Gandhi now felt the need to launch a more broad-based movement in India. So the Rowlatt Satyagraha was a kind of a widespread movement at that time, but it was still limited mostly in cities and towns only. So it was not there in the villages side. So Mahatma Gandhi felt that there is a need to launch a more broad-based movement in India, but he was certain that no such movement could be organized without bringing the Hindus and Muslims closer together. So he thought that हम कोई भी movement कर ले, हम कुछ भी organize कर ले, but he cannot bring Hindus and Muslims together, close together as a one team. So the one way of doing this, he felt was to take up the Khilafat issue, and the First World War had ended with the defeat of Ottoman Turkey. So, and there were rumors that a harsh peace treaty was going to be imposed on the Ottoman Empire, and the spiritual head of the Islamic world, the Khalifa, to defend the Khalifa's temporal power, and the Khilafat Committee was formed in Bombay in March 1990. So he protested against one Muslim community that was there, and because he wanted to create certain peace, but the rumors were being spread that just because he was against of this Khilafat community, there was a harsh peace treaty that was going to happen and imposed on the Ottoman Empire, and the Khilafat committee was formed in the Bombay in March 1990. At that time only, and young generation of Muslim leaders like the brothers of Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali began discussing with the Mahatma Gandhi about the possibility of a united mass action on the issue. So there was a team that had been made with the Muslims and with India, which was Mahatma Gandhi. They came together as a united one to think one action with this particular issue. Again, what was there, like the Hindu versus Muslim which was going on. So Mahatma Gandhi saw this as an opportunity to bring Muslims under the umbrella of a unified national movement, and at the Calcutta session of the Congress in September 1920, he convinced other leaders of the need to start a non-cooperation movement in support of Khilafat as well as for Swaraj. So that's how this non-cooperation movement was started. So they have discussed, and they wanted that the Muslim also should come under this unified national movement shape. So they want that Muslim को भी हमारे साथ join करना चाहिए. So at the Calcutta session, when there was a meeting going on with the Congress in September 1920, he convinced other leaders also to start a non-cooperation movement in support of Khilafat as well as for Swaraj. So non-cooperation movement we'll discuss in the next lecture. So the homework I am going to give you in this lecture is read the text carefully and write a note on what did Mahatma Gandhi mean when he said Satyagraha is active resistance. So you have to write on your own words, or what you have understand by the speech that I have mentioned in the lecture also, what you understand by that and what Mahatma Gandhi mean by active resistance. So this is your homework, and if there is any doubt, just let me know in the online class in the doubt session. So that's it for this lecture. Just take care of your health, and thank you so much.